What I am about to share with you is going to explain something that has confused you for years. Maybe it confused you about someone else. Maybe it confused you about yourself. Either way, by the end of this video, a door in your mind is going to open that can never be closed again. You have seen him. You know exactly who I am talking about. The man who used to be everywhere. The one who answered every call. The one who showed up for everyone. The one who was reliable, present, loyal to a fault. And then one day, without warning, without explanation, without a dramatic goodbye, he simply vanished. He stopped answering texts. He stopped coming to gatherings. He stopped engaging with people who once meant everything to him. He became a ghost in his own life. And everyone had something to say about it. They called him cold. They called him selfish. They called him ungrateful. They whispered that he changed, that something must be wrong with him, that maybe success got to his head, or pain broke him, or he just stopped caring about the people who loved him. But here is what nobody understood. Here is what nobody could see beneath the surface of his silence. His disappearance was not a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. And today, right now in this video, you are going to understand the complete psychological truth behind why some men reach a point where they cut everyone off. Not some people, everyone. If you have ever been that man, if you are becoming that man right now, or if you have watched helplessly as someone you love disappeared into silence you could not penetrate, what follows will explain everything. Every question you have been asking, every confusion you have been carrying, every judgment you have been holding against him or against yourself, all of it is about to make sense. But I need to warn you before we go any further. This video is not surface-level advice. This is not generic self-help content you can listen to passively and forget by tomorrow. What I am about to share comes from deep psychological research, from patterns observed across thousands of men who have walked this exact path, from truths that most people spend their entire lives never understanding. Some of what you hear will be uncomfortable. Some of it will feel like I am reading pages from your own private journal. Some of it might make you emotional in ways you did not expect. That is not an accident. That is recognition. Your soul already knows this story because you have lived it, either as the one who left or as the one who was left behind. So stay with me. Do not click away. Do not get distracted. What comes next will reveal 7 psychological truths about men who cut everyone off. And the 5th one, the one that almost nobody talks about, is the reason most men who go through this transformation never return to who they were before. If something inside you is already stirring, if your chest feels tight or your breathing has shifted, that is not coincidence. That is your subconscious telling you that this message was meant for you. Take a deep breath. We are going in. Sign 1, the identity fracture. The first psychological truth is something that happens so gradually, so quietly, that most men do not even realize it is occurring until the damage is already done. He stopped recognizing himself in his relationships. Let me explain what this actually means because it is far more profound than it sounds on the surface. There comes a moment in a man's life, sometimes in his 20s, sometimes in his 30s, sometimes not until his 40s or beyond, when he looks around at everything he has built. He looks at his friendships. He looks at his relationships. He looks at the conversations he is having, the roles he is playing, the version of himself that shows up every single day. And something inside him whispers a truth he can no longer ignore. This is not me anymore. He does not feel like himself when he is with these people. He does not sound like himself. He does not think like himself. It is as if somewhere along the way he put on a mask to survive, to fit in, to be accepted, and that mask has been glued to his face for so long that he forgot it was even there. Think about this for a moment. Every friendship has an unspoken contract. Every relationship has invisible expectations. Every social circle has rules about who you are supposed to be when you are in it. You play a role. You meet expectations. You show up as the version of yourself that keeps everyone comfortable, that maintains the peace, that does not rock the boat. And for years, maybe decades, he did exactly that. He was the reliable one. the one everyone could count on, the helper who never asked for help, the listener who never needed to be heard, the strong one who never complained, the calm one who held everything together while everyone else fell apart around him. He played this role so well that everyone believed it was who he actually was. But here is the devastating realization that finally broke him. The person everyone knew, the person everyone relied on, the person everyone claimed to love, that person was never actually him. It was a character, a performance, a survival mechanism he created in childhood or adolescence to navigate a world that did not feel safe for his authentic self. And the longer he played that character, the further he drifted from who he really was underneath. He started noticing something that he could not unsee. Being around certain people exhausted him in ways that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. Not because those people were bad or evil or intentionally harmful, but because being with them required him to perform, to pretend, to suppress parts of himself that were screaming to be expressed. Every interaction felt like putting on a costume. Every conversation felt like reading from a script someone else had written. Every moment spent maintaining these relationships felt like time stolen from the person he was supposed to become. This realization does not arrive with anger. It does not come with resentment or bitterness toward the people in his life. It comes with something far more powerful. Clarity, a quiet, undeniable, bone-deep knowing that if he continues to stay in these relationships, if he continues to play this role, if he continues to abandon himself to meet everyone else's expectations, he will lose himself completely, and there will be nothing left to save. So he begins to pull away, not out of hatred, not out of revenge, not out of a desire to punish anyone, out of self-preservation. He is not cutting people off to hurt them. He is cutting them off to save himself. He is choosing his own survival over their comfort. He is finally, after years of putting everyone else first, putting himself first. Most people do not understand this. They see him pulling away and they take it personally. They think it is about them. They think he is being cold, selfish, ungrateful, cruel. But for men who do this, it has nothing to do with the other people. It has everything to do with identity, with authenticity, with reclaiming a version of themselves that was buried so deep under expectations and obligations and performances that they almost forgot it existed at all. And once that clarity hits, once he sees the truth of what he has been doing to himself, there is no going back. The mask comes off, and the man underneath it is someone most people never actually knew. If you have ever felt this, if you have ever looked around at your life and thought none of this feels like me anymore, then you already know what I am describing, and you already sense what is coming next. Because this awakening, this fracture in identity, leads directly to the second psychological truth. The one that explains why he suddenly stopped answering calls, stopped showing up to events, stopped engaging with people who once meant everything to him. Sign 2, the transactional revelation. The second truth is one of the most painful realizations a man can ever have, and once he sees it, he cannot unsee it. He realized that most of his connections were never connections at all. They were transactions. For years he showed up, consistently, reliably, without fail. He answered the phone at 2 in the morning when someone needed to talk. He gave advice even when he was exhausted. He listened to the same problems over and over and over again without complaint. He celebrated other people's wins with genuine joy. He supported them through their struggles without keeping score. He was present. He was consistent. He was loyal in ways that most people only pretend to be. And he did all of this without asking for anything in return. Not because he was keeping track, not because he expected repayment, but because that is who he was. A giver, someone who found deep meaning in being there for the people he loved. But then something shifted. He started paying attention. He started noticing patterns that had been right in front of his face for years. Patterns he had chosen to ignore because seeing them would have been too painful. He noticed that the people who called him at 2 in the morning when they needed something were nowhere to be found when he needed them. He noticed that conversations were always about their problems, their lives, their drama, their needs. And when he tried to share his own struggles, the energy in the room changed. People got uncomfortable. They gave shallow responses. They changed the subject as quickly as possible. He noticed that he was always the one reaching out, always the one making plans, always the one putting in effort. And when he stopped initiating, the relationship simply stopped. He noticed that people who claimed to love him did not actually know him at all. They knew the role he played. They knew the function he served, but they had never bothered to learn who he actually was beneath the surface. And then the devastating truth became undeniable. Most of his relationships were not relationships. They were transactions. People kept him around not because they valued him as a human being, but because he was useful. He was the emotional support system, the problem solver, the unpaid therapist, the reliable backup plan, the one who would always say yes. He was not loved, he was utilized, and the proof came when he finally started setting boundaries. The moment he stopped being available on demand, the moment he stopped dropping everything to solve everyone else's problems, the moment he started prioritizing his own needs, people did not ask if he was okay. They got offended. They called him selfish. They accused him of changing. They said he was not the person they used to know. They guilt-tripped him for not being available the way he used to be. And that reaction confirmed everything he had been afraid to admit. Because real relationships do not fall apart when you set boundaries. Real friendships do not disappear when you stop giving more than you receive. Real connections survive the seasons when you are not okay, when you cannot show up, when you need to focus on yourself. But transactional relationships crumble the instant the transaction stops. This realization is devastating because it forces a man to confront something he never wanted to believe. Many of the people he loved did not actually love him. They loved what he did for them. They loved the role he played in their lives. They loved the version of him that made their existence easier, that solved their problems, that carried their burdens. And when that version stopped existing, so did their interest in knowing him. So he cuts them off, not with hatred, not with bitterness, not with a desire for revenge, with acceptance. He accepts that some people were never meant to stay in his life beyond the season when they needed something from him. He accepts that loyalty, depth, and genuine reciprocity are far more rare than he wanted to believe. He accepts that protecting his energy and his peace is more important than maintaining relationships that were one-sided from the very beginning. But there is something even deeper happening beneath the surface, something that most people never see because they are too busy judging his withdrawal to understand what is actually occurring. When a man cuts everyone off, he is not just removing people from his life. He is removing the version of himself that allowed those dynamics to exist in the first place. He is killing the people pleaser. He is burying the doormat. He is ending the era of self-abandonment that made him so easy to use. And that death, the death of his old self, is what makes room for his rebirth. This leads us to the third psychological truth, the one that explains why he stopped trying to justify himself, stopped explaining his decisions, stopped seeking understanding from people who were never going to give it. Sign 3, the end of external validation. There was a time, and perhaps you remember this time in your own life, when his entire sense of worth was tied to how other people saw him. He needed approval. He craved recognition. He sought validation like oxygen. His decisions were filtered through the question of what will people think. His actions were shaped by how others might react. His identity was built on a foundation of external opinions. He lived in a constant state of people-pleasing, not because he was weak or cowardly, but because somewhere along the way, he learned that being good to others was how you earned love, that being useful was how you became valuable, that making people happy was how you justified your existence. So he bent himself into shapes that were never natural to him. He said yes when he meant no. He showed up when he wanted to stay home. He agreed with opinions he did not actually hold. He suppressed his truth to avoid conflict. He abandoned his needs to meet the needs of others. And for a while, this strategy seemed to work. People liked him. People relied on him. People kept him around. But then the system broke. Maybe it broke slowly, crack by crack, over years of accumulated disappointment. Maybe it shattered in a single moment of devastating clarity. But at some point, he realized something that changed everything. No amount of external validation will ever fill an internal void. The people he bent over backwards for still criticized him when he made choices they did not agree with. The people he sacrificed for still left when he was no longer convenient. The people he tried so hard to please were never fully satisfied, always wanting more, always moving the goalposts, always finding something new to complain about. And he finally understood that seeking approval from others was a trap with no exit. It was an endless treadmill where the destination kept moving, a game where the rules kept changing, a prison he had locked himself in while handing the key to everyone but himself. So he stopped. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped defending his choices. He stopped writing long messages trying to make people understand why he needed space, why he was changing, why he could not keep showing up the way he used to. Because he realized something profound. People who truly care about him will respect his boundaries without needing a detailed explanation. They will trust that he has his reasons. They will give him space without taking it personally. They will love him through his transformation instead of resisting it. And people who do not truly care will twist his words no matter what he says. They will find fault in any explanation. They will use his vulnerability against him. They will demand justification they have no right to demand. So why waste energy explaining himself to people who were never going to understand anyway? This shift is not arrogance. It is liberation. It is the moment a man steps fully into his own authority. The moment he stops living according to the opinions of others and starts living according to his own values, his own truth, his own inner knowing. And when this happens, he naturally creates distance from people who only valued him when he was seeking their approval, because those relationships were never about him. They were about what he provided. And now that he has stopped providing it, those people have no reason to stay. He becomes unshakable. He is no longer desperate for connection. He is no longer terrified of being alone. He is no longer willing to compromise his peace, his truth, his authenticity just to make other people comfortable. And that is when the labels start flying. Cold, distant, changed, arrogant, selfish. But he is none of those things. He is simply no longer available for relationships that require him to abandon himself. He is no longer willing to pay the price of self-betrayal for the reward of temporary acceptance. This is power, real power, the kind that does not come from controlling others, but from controlling yourself. But this transformation does not happen in a vacuum. It is usually triggered by something specific, something painful, something that broke his trust so completely that he had no choice but to rebuild from the ground up. And that brings us to the fourth psychological truth, a pattern so common among men who cut everyone off that once you hear it, everything else will make sense. Sign 4, the wound of betrayal. This is the truth that most men never speak about out loud, the wound they carry in silence, the pain they bury so deep that even they sometimes forget it is there, the betrayal that changed everything. Because almost every man who reaches the point of cutting everyone off has a story like this. A story they do not tell at parties. A story they do not post on social media. A story that lives in the quiet hours of the night when they cannot sleep and their mind replays the moment their world broke apart. It was not a stranger who hurt them. It was not an enemy. It was not someone they expected betrayal from. It was someone close. Someone they trusted completely. Someone they believed in absolutely. Someone they would have protected with everything they had. Someone they never imagined could be the source of their deepest pain. Maybe it was a best friend who took his secrets and spread them like gossip, turning his vulnerability into entertainment for others. Maybe it was a romantic partner who cheated after he gave everything, who broke vows that he took seriously even when the world told him that loyalty was outdated. Maybe it was family who turned on him when he needed them most, who chose sides against him when he expected unconditional support. Maybe it was a business partner who stole from him after he gave them opportunities they never would have had without him. Maybe it was a mentor who used him, or a brother who betrayed him, or someone he helped rise up who stabbed him in the back the moment they no longer needed his support. The specific story is different for every man, but the result is always the same. A deep, cutting, life-altering realization that even the people you trust most, even the people you would die for, can hurt you in ways you never thought possible. And that betrayal did not just hurt in the moment, it rewired him permanently. It changed how he sees people. It changed how he evaluates trustworthiness. It changed the speed at which he allows people into his inner world. Because once you have been stabbed in the back by someone you would have taken a bullet for, you do not just become cautious, you become selective in ways that most people will never understand. You stop assuming good intentions. You start watching actions instead of listening to words. You stop giving everyone the benefit of the doubt because you learn that some people do not deserve that benefit. You stop letting people into your inner circle just because they are friendly or charming or seem like good people. Because you learn the hard way that the most dangerous people are often the ones who seem the most trustworthy. This is why men who cut everyone off often appear guarded. They seem distant. They come across as emotionally unavailable or hard to reach. But it is not that they do not want connection. It is not that they do not desire intimacy and trust in deep relationships. It is that they have been burned so badly, so devastatingly, that they are no longer willing to risk that kind of pain with just anyone. They have learned that trust is not something you give freely. It is something that must be earned over time through consistent action. They have learned that words mean nothing without behavior to back them up. They have learned that the cost of trusting the wrong person, the cost of letting someone into your inner world who does not deserve to be there, is simply too high to pay again. So they withdraw. They build walls. They create distance. Not because they are broken, not because they are damaged beyond repair, not because they have given up on humanity, because they are protecting what is left of themselves. And the people who judge them for it, the people who complain that he has changed, that he is too guarded now, that he does not let anyone in anymore, those people have no idea what it took for him to get to this point. They have no idea how many times he tried to trust again, only to be disappointed. They have no idea how many second chances he gave that were thrown back in his face. They have no idea how exhausting it is to be constantly let down by people who claim to care. But here is what nobody tells you about this pain. It is not the end of his story. It is not the final chapter. It is the crucible, the fire that burns away everything false, the pressure that creates diamonds. Because when a man is forced to face the darkness of human nature, when he is forced to see how selfish, how shallow, how disloyal people can be, he has only two choices. He can become bitter and closed off forever, letting the betrayal define him until the end of his days. Or he can use that pain as fuel for transformation. He can let it make him more discerning, more intentional, more aligned with his true self, more capable of recognizing who deserves access to his life and who does not. Most men who cut everyone off choose the second path. They do not stay isolated forever. They rebuild, but they rebuild differently, with stronger foundations, with better boundaries, with clearer vision. And that brings us to the fifth psychological truth. This is the one that changes everything. The one that separates temporary withdrawal from permanent transformation. The one that explains why most men who go through this never return to who they were before. Before I reveal this fifth truth, I need to stop and speak directly to you for a moment. If you have made it this far into this video, that tells me something important about you. It tells me you are not here for surface-level entertainment. You are here because something in these words is resonating with a place inside you that rarely gets spoken to. Maybe you are the man I have been describing. Maybe you are in the middle of this transformation right now, unsure if what you are doing is right, wondering if you are making a mistake by pulling away from everyone you know. Or maybe you are watching someone you love go through this, confused by their silence, hurt by their distance, desperate to understand what is happening inside them. Either way, you need to hear what comes next. And you need to keep hearing messages like this as you navigate whatever journey you are on. That is why I am asking you, sincerely and directly, to subscribe to this channel right now. This is not about numbers for me. This is about making sure you do not lose access to the guidance you need. I have watched too many people discover a video that speaks to their soul, that gives them clarity they desperately needed, and then forget to subscribe. Then the algorithm buries it, then they cannot find their way back when they need it most. Do not let that happen to you. Hit the subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications for Cyphera, because the journey you are on is not a straight line, and you are going to need reminders along the way. Do it for the version of yourself who is still struggling to understand. Do it for the future moment when you need to hear these truths again. Subscribe now and let us continue. Sign 5, the choice of solitude. The fifth psychological truth is the one that separates men who pull away temporarily from men who transform permanently. It is the realization that changed everything, the threshold that, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. He chose solitude over fake connection, and he discovered that it was not a punishment. It was a gift. Most people fear being alone more than almost anything else. They will stay in draining friendships that leave them exhausted just to avoid the discomfort of an empty room. They will maintain toxic relationships that destroy their mental health because the alternative feels unbearable. They will surround themselves with people who do not actually know them or care about them, just to escape the silence. But men who cut everyone off have crossed a threshold that most people never reach. They sat in the silence, not for a day or a weekend, but long enough for the truth to emerge. And what they discovered shattered everything they thought they knew about loneliness. The silence is not empty, it is full of clarity that is impossible to find when you are constantly surrounded by other people's opinions and expectations. Full of truth that only emerges when there is no one to perform for. Full of a voice that has been trying to reach them for years but was always drowned out by the noise of relationships that demanded pieces of them. In that solitude, he found himself again. Not the version of himself that performed, not the version that pretended, not the version that shape-shifted to meet everyone else's expectations. The real version, the authentic version. The version that existed before the world told him who he was supposed to be. He found his own thoughts, not the thoughts he absorbed from others. He found his own values, not the values he adopted to fit in. He found his own dreams, not the dreams that were handed to him by family or society or culture. And once you find that, once you reconnect with your authentic self after years of disconnection, going back to fake connection feels impossible. It feels like suffocation. This is why people do not understand men who isolate. They look at him alone and assume he is lonely, depressed, broken, in need of saving, but he is not. He is recalibrating. He is healing. He is building a relationship with himself that is stronger than any relationship he ever had with another person. And that relationship with himself becomes his foundation, his compass, his source of strength that no longer depends on external validation. Solitude teaches lessons that connection never can. It teaches self-reliance, the understanding that you can depend on yourself, that you do not need someone else to complete you or make your life meaningful. It teaches that your own company is enough, that you can sit with yourself without running, without distracting, without needing entertainment or stimulation from outside sources. It teaches the difference between loneliness and aloneness, and this distinction is crucial. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. It is the ache that comes from feeling unseen, unknown, isolated even in a crowd. Aloneness is the power of self-sufficiency. It is the peace that comes from being complete within yourself, from not needing external sources to feel whole. Loneliness is a wound. Aloneness is a superpower. And once a man learns this distinction, everything changes. He stops accepting relationships out of need and starts choosing them out of genuine desire. He stops tolerating people who drain him just to avoid being alone. He stops settling for surface-level connections because depth is worth waiting for. This does not mean he will never connect with people again. It means he will only connect with people who match his energy, his values, his depth, his commitment to authenticity. He is no longer interested in friendships that require performance. He is no longer interested in relationships where he has to hide parts of himself. He is no longer interested in people who only show up when it is convenient or when they need something. He is interested in real, and real is rare. So yes, his circle becomes smaller, much smaller. Maybe it shrinks to just a few people. Maybe for a season it shrinks to no one at all. But the connections that remain, or the new ones he eventually builds, are unshakable. They are built on truth, not convenience, on mutual respect, not obligation, on genuine care, not transaction, on growth together, not codependency. And that is worth more than 100 shallow friendships could ever be. But this transformation comes with something most people never anticipate, a shift so profound that it changes not just his relationships, but his entire orientation toward life. And that brings us to the sixth truth. Sign 6, the release of borrowed burdens. For most of his life, he was the one everyone leaned on, the problem solver, the emotional anchor, the friend who always knew what to say, the person whose phone rang whenever anyone else's life fell apart. And he carried that role with a sense of purpose. He believed that being there for others was noble. He believed that being needed meant being valued. He found meaning in solving problems, offering support, being the rock that everyone else could cling to in their storms. But over time, something started to break inside him. The weight became unbearable. He realized he was carrying burdens that were never his to carry, absorbing stress that did not originate in his own life, exhausting himself trying to fix people who had no genuine intention of changing. He was giving advice that was being ignored, offering solutions that were being rejected, providing support that was being taken for granted. And through all of this, his own problems, his own pain, his own struggles, his own needs were pushed to the side, neglected, dismissed, because there was never space for them, because he was too busy being everyone else's savior to save himself. He came to a realization that most people never reach. You cannot save people who do not want to save themselves. You cannot heal people who are addicted to their wounds. You cannot fix people who benefit from staying broken. You cannot carry someone to a destination they have no desire to reach. And trying to do so does not make you helpful. It makes you drained, resentful, empty. So he stopped. He stopped answering every crisis call at all hours. He stopped giving unsolicited advice to people who never followed it. He stopped trying to rescue people from situations they kept choosing to re-enter. He set a boundary that most people found offensive. He decided that his peace mattered more than being everyone's therapist. His energy mattered more than being everyone's emotional support system. His life mattered more than being everyone's unpaid solution. And when he did this, people got angry. They called him selfish. They said he had changed, that he did not care anymore, that he was abandoning them. They tried to guilt him into returning to the old dynamic where their needs always came first and his needs did not matter at all. But what they did not understand, what they refused to see, was that he had been abandoning himself for years to be available for them. He had been sacrificing his own well-being, his own dreams, his own peace of mind to carry weights that were never his responsibility. And he finally chose himself, not out of cruelty, not out of coldness, not because he stopped caring about other people, out of survival, because you cannot build a meaningful life when you are constantly managing everyone else's chaos. You cannot grow when you are stuck playing the same exhausting role in everyone else's drama. You cannot heal when you are too busy trying to heal everyone else. This shift is essential for any man who wants to reclaim his existence. Cutting people off is not always about the people themselves. Sometimes it is about the role you were playing in their lives. And when you realize that role was destroying you, when you see clearly that being everyone's savior was costing you your own salvation, the only option is to step away, completely, without apology, without explanation. And this leads directly to the final truth, the one that ties everything together, the one that reveals why this entire painful journey, as lonely and misunderstood as it might have been, was absolutely necessary for his evolution. Sign 7. The becoming everything you have learned in this video, every sign, every pattern, every painful realization leads here, to this moment, to this truth. He is becoming the man he was always meant to be, Cutting everyone off was never about running away from people. It was about running toward himself, toward the version of himself that had been buried under years of expectations and performances and people-pleasing, toward the version that had been waiting patiently, sometimes for decades, for him to wake up and remember who he truly is. When a man cuts everyone off and sits in the silence long enough, something extraordinary happens. He sheds every false identity, every mask he wore to be accepted, every version of himself that was constructed to please others rather than express truth. And what remains when all of that falls away is the essence, the core, the irreducible truth of who he actually is, his real values, his genuine purpose, his authentic self that existed before the world told him who he should be. This process is painful because it requires him to let go of people who only knew the old version. People who expect him to stay the same forever. People who are uncomfortable with his growth because it highlights their own stagnation. But evolution always requires release. You cannot become who you are meant to be while clinging to who you used to be. You cannot grow into your full potential while surrounded by people who need you to stay small, who are invested in keeping you predictable, who feel threatened by your transformation. So he rebuilds. But this time he builds differently. He builds from truth instead of performance, from self-respect instead of desperation for external validation, from intention instead of obligation. He chooses his relationships with precision and care. He guards his energy as the precious resource it is. He speaks his truth without apology. He lives according to his own values rather than society's expectations. And the man who emerges from this chrysalis of solitude is unrecognizable to those who knew him before. He is calmer, but more powerful, quieter, but more confident, more isolated from the masses, but more free than he has ever been. He does not need a crowd to feel worthy. He does not need applause to feel valid. He does not need constant connection to feel complete, because he found everything he was searching for within himself. This is the complete psychology of men who cut everyone off. It is not about coldness. It is about clarity. It is not about cruelty. It is about self-preservation. It is not about running away from life. It is about running toward the life that was always meant to be his. If you have stayed with me until this point, you are not a casual viewer. You are someone who needed this message. And I need to ask you something important. If this video helped you understand yourself or someone you care about, if these words gave voice to something you felt but could not articulate, then you have a responsibility right now. Subscribe to Cyphera, not for me, for yourself, and for every other person who is going through this same journey and feeling completely alone in it. When you subscribe, you do two things. First, you ensure that you will continue receiving content that speaks to the deepest parts of your experience, content that will support you as you navigate your own transformation. Second, you help the algorithm show this video to someone else who desperately needs to hear it. Someone who is sitting in their silence right now, wondering if something is wrong with them, wondering if they are broken for wanting to walk away from everyone. Your subscription might be the reason they find this video. Your simple click might be the thing that helps them understand they are not crazy, not cold, not broken. Subscribe now. Do it as an act of solidarity with everyone who has ever felt misunderstood for choosing themselves. If you are watching this and you have cut people off, hear me clearly. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are not cold or selfish or any of the other labels people have tried to put on you. You are awakening. And that awakening requires you to release everything that is not aligned with your truth. Every relationship that requires you to be someone you are not. Every connection that takes more than it gives. Every dynamic that kept you trapped in a version of yourself that was never the real you. The people who are meant to be in your life will understand. They will respect your boundaries without taking them personally. They will honor your journey even when they do not fully understand it. They will love you through your transformation instead of resisting it. And the ones who cannot do that, the ones who demand you stay the same forever, the ones who make your growth about their feelings, they were never your people to begin with. Let them go, without guilt, without endless explanation, without looking back. And if you are watching this trying to understand someone who cut you off, I want to offer you a different perspective. It was never about you. It was about him reclaiming himself, finding himself, becoming who he was always meant to be. Sometimes the most loving thing a person can do is walk away from relationships that no longer serve their highest evolution. That does not mean you did anything wrong. It means his journey required him to travel a road that you were not meant to walk with him, and that is okay. Now I want you to do something with me. Place your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath in. Let it out slowly. If this video resonated with you, if you felt the truth of these words somewhere deep in your chest, then you are exactly where you need to be. Your journey is not ending. It is transforming. Say this to yourself, quietly or out loud. I choose myself. I honor my journey. I trust my path. Say it again. Let it settle into your bones. Let it become your truth. If you have lived this experience, if you understand this psychology from the inside, if you are becoming the man who cuts everyone off, or if you have already walked that road, I want you to leave a comment below. Type, I choose myself, not for validation from strangers, not for engagement metrics, as a declaration, a commitment, a statement to your own soul that you are finished living for others at the expense of yourself, that you are ready to live for your own truth, your own growth, your own becoming. Your transformation is not a tragedy, it is your awakening. And the world needs men who are courageous enough to choose themselves, even when everyone else calls it selfish, even when no one understands, even when the silence feels unbearable. You are not alone in this. And your story, the real story, the one where you become who you were always meant to be, that story is just beginning.